What is good, everyone? Welcome to the Sneaker History Podcast. My name is Nick Engvall, and before we get into today's episode, I'm going to ask a small favor from all of you. We've uploaded over 350 episodes of the show, and we're slowly creeping up on 600,000 downloads. I honestly can't even wrap my head around it. That is insane. Thank you so much for listening and being a part of this journey with us. If you could take a moment to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, hit that follow button on Spotify, and give us a rating, it would be greatly appreciated. I'm looking forward to taking the show to new levels in the coming months with more guests from the community, talks with industry professionals, and deeper dives into the sneaker stories that shape this obsession we are all so passionate about. And your support is going to make that happen, so thank you in advance. One last thing before we get into this episode, do the right thing. Tell someone you like their kicks today. You never know how far a compliment will take you, and we all know how good it feels to be on the receiving end of some appreciation.
Jordan trying to shake off Starks. Oh, what a move!
LeBron James with no regard for human life. Final seconds. Bryant for the win. Iverson against Gill. The crowd on its feet. Allen for the win.
Welcome to the Sneaker History Podcast.
What up, what up? Welcome to the Sneaker History Podcast. We're back with our nice list to wrap up 2024, and then we're going to give you a break from listening to us. Not really. We got interviews for days right now, so you're not going to get away from us on this holiday break, but we are going to take a break and get our voices back. You can hear I'm a little, but it's good, guys. How you guys doing?
I'm good, man. I gotta tell you, Nick, you started off my morning right. I saw your video with you guys taking a walk and treating yourself. I was like, look at Nick start my morning off right. So I just had to give a hand clap and put the video out.
A future branding idea. I just heard Mike say Nick Star, so now I think of a counterculture world star, but it's just Nick Engvall centric.
Is that the universe? We're gonna call it the Nick Star.
We got to be careful how we say it because the wrong. Yeah.
You messed up real quick. You're like, hold on, what you say right? That was funny.
So we're gonna do the nice list, the best of 2024 in our own way, but I'm just gonna get it out of the way so we don't have to talk about it because we've already talked about it on many episodes. I think we can all agree the AE1
just thumbs up
is, if not the best, it's very near the top for all of us, right?
Definitely.
So someone at the Adidas employee store went and bought up like a whole pallet worth of them. So now they're not 50% off anymore, and I'm not going to pay full price for them. But I have wanted a pair so bad, so they'll be the one that got away from me in 2024. But yeah, some asshole or a-hole just goes and buys up, and they're just reselling them like a dick. And
they're not reselling for anything. They're like retail.
But when you do retail, I mean, if you got them for $50, you sell them for $80.
What a jerk.
You buy 40, 50 pairs of them. Why Adidas lets them buy 40 to 50 pairs in one stock, I don't know.
Let's go fight that guy.
If you can do the witness protection agency as I espouse this next option, because obviously, day job, just black me out, make one of those weird transporter voices. I really like that shoe. And now I kind of sound like Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs. So it's very pretty.
Buff Bill.
Yeah, Buff Bill. No, I think for me, and this is a theme that we'll go on into, I think, for all of our nice lists, is it was the first example of storytelling being great again. And as we'll kind of cover in this episode, when it hits, it hits. And I'm sure with some of the other episodes that some of the panel have done, I'm very interested to see the likes of how storytelling has been brought up in the Bima sense. Because, Mike, spoiler alert, you're doing an interview with Bima, and I'm sure that was a topic that probably came up.
Yeah, so you know what? We didn't talk about the AE1, but we did talk about just storytelling and people trying to find an audience, and that is one of those things. They did it right. You listen to the interview and just his perspective on how you get an audience, how you be genuine with things. So I think that what they did was a genuine, ode to AE and where you're coming from and what he's about, without trying to reach for goofy stories that a lot of time it happens.
I think
that's a good start,
right?
For the Girl Dad, right? That's something you two both really liked a lot this year on the good list.
Yeah. Again, with forced storytelling, I think, Rowan and I both having little girls in our lives is one of those things that it's cool. I mean, I didn't get a pair, but it's just one of those really things that I can love from afar. Hopefully I get a pair one day, and it just spoke to me as a girl dad. So I think that's probably true for Rowan and a lot of other girl dads out there.
Yeah, and I mean, for me as well, it's the dual storytelling, right? Because I think there's that Nike enforced storytelling of it was a particular outfit that both Kobe and Gianna wore that they drew inspiration from, if I'm remembering correctly. But one of the other things that features prominently in my mind, and this is a joy of not necessarily just being a girl dad, but a dad in general, is there's a very famous video of, I believe, Kobe holding Capri, or it might have been Coco, as the Eagles are about to win their Super Bowl. And Kobe was a big Eagles fan. And to me, when I first saw that shoe, I didn't know about the Kobe Gianna motif in terms of their wardrobe. I just naturally went towards that moment of him holding his girl and sharing that moment of sports fandom. And that's one of those things that Mike's daughter is telling us right now. Dads are always going to be in their kids' lives. And it's one of those things where what you get to share with them, sometimes it's something they like, other times it's something you like. But when it hits right, it makes all of us kind of just applaud. And if they ever want to do a Girl Dad 2 in Kansas City Chiefs colorway, Nike, you know where to find me. I'm at the Next Percent building, and that's all I'm going to say.
But the reason why stuff like that works is because you've seen photos of Kobe in the Eagles jersey. Like, all those athletes have those really strong moments.
Yep.
And, like, to kind of stay in the same lane but different, I have a boring white Sabrina here that I got from work. But the colorways and storytelling on this have been great, not just from like the Oregon Duck looking ones, or the slam ones none of us are going to get, or like the white noise is drowning out the noise. But the story of her dad telling people as a cab driver, like, hey, my daughter's really good. She's going to be the best one day, yada, yada. And then hearing that story and knowing that about her makes me like the shoe more the same way we like the Kobe stuff more, because we liked Kobe the person, right?
Yep.
So that stuff's an integral part of storytelling. If it was just like an Oregon Duck colorway, like they do on a LeBron 22, or they do every LeBron shoe, it's cool. LeBron didn't go there, whatever. But her being an alum, like this little things like that
makes sense.
Yeah,
it just means more, to borrow the SEC phrasing, if you will. Like, our passion, our culture always is going to be not only surface level, but in our DNA, in our blood. And when you see tasteful executions of that, there's no greater feeling as a consumer, as a creator, and everything in between.
Yeah, and that really segues right into Nigel. I mean, we can just keep going in line. So you look at Nigel, everything he's done so far when it comes to his collaborations have been really rooted into what he actually is as a BMX rider. We have a weird shot from Robbie going on here. You got to pay for that one. But they have been really rooted in his actual story, in his grandma's driveway, or grandma's fence. I guess you can go either way with that one. Was really good. I like the rollout, the using the pinnacle of moms, or I guess with her age now, grandmas, with Joe Marie Payton from Family Matters as the grandmother in the ad campaign was awesome, because think of people, I guess Nigel's about our age, that 35-ish, 36, and so we all resonate the whole Family Matters thing, and then his true story of where he learned to ride a bike. It was just tied in so well of what the shoe was about, and using the actual Pantone from that fence was awesome. Using actual pictures as the tissue paper from actual photos of his grandmother's driveway, awesome, with, I guess, his baby pictures on the bike. So just all good.
Even the box, right? The box feels different. The shoebox itself feels like it's got that driveway feel of kind of granite, kind of rough, kind of coarse, but then at the same time smooth. And I figure I'm not a bike connoisseur. In fact, listeners, I don't know how to ride a bike. That's my we listen, we don't judge moment of this episode. But I'm sure there's no better surface than riding a bike on that type of surface way. So they killed it, and that execution was flawless.
Yep.
Yeah, I think too the other part of this too, it we talked a little bit about it on the Naughty List episode, but a lot of these collaborations that we're talking about also just kind of like make the rest of the cookie cutter collabs like just garbage, like I think it's like it's easy to put, a brand name on a shoe. It's easy to put a colorway that you connect to a candy or a cereal or whatever. And nothing against that. Like, I think like it works in some cases, but like when it's actually something that people are like excited about, passionate about, have a connection to, and then like Robbie said, you get the people that, you know, like the 3 collaborators we're talking about, you know, and even honestly, even with talking about Anthony Edwards, like people are genuinely like huge fans of these people.
Yeah.
And then you put a story on top of it, and that makes it that much more incredible. And I think like one of the shoes that I would say, one of the things I would say about like the good list for me this year, and this might be a little bit controversial because I know a lot of people don't want to see all the like, you know, quote unquote Grails coming back and releasing, but like at this point, like I think the sneaker world and the footwear industry needs as much energy as it can get. So if a story can be represented to a new generation of people, you know, like people are introduced to, you know, whether it's Wu-Tang or the Fruity Pebbles, you know, LeBrons or any of those things, like the 18-year-old that's introduced to them now has a different experience. LeBron's played for 20 years, you know, like we all watched him. I watched him on ESPN in high school multiple times. And I was like, this is crazy that I'm watching this guy and I'm going to watch him for the rest of his career. But like, that doesn't mean that the people that came into his career 10 years in, 20 years in, because that's when they came to appreciate the game or the shoes or whatever it is, doesn't take away from their experience. And I think like, it's something that like, you know, they have to tread lightly with it. Cause if they released everything, then like you kind of do kill some of the, like the, you know, the hunt or the chasing of those grails. But this year we had a lot of good stuff, you know, the Wu-Tangs come to mind and obviously the Fruity Pebbles, and there's been a ton of Air Maxes, you know, kind of re-released, but you know, it's, to me, that's a definitely on the nice list, you know, of like more people that can get into these stories. You know, you never saw a pair of Wu-Tang Dunks in person in the wild before anyway. So what does the allure of that matter if they're not real and tangible to you? So now, yeah, you might see too many of them for the next year or two, but like 5 years from now, when one of us lands a pair for cheap or sees somebody wearing a pair, it's going to be like, oh shit, that was a good moment, and we got to relive it, you know.
Well, that goes into just the sneaker culture as a whole right now, or I don't want to say culture, but I say I guess the sneaker market, that people so are really enamored with, of like, why is it so cheap? I'm like, why are you asking questions? Like, let's go ahead and pick these things up. I mean, if I can get a Wu-Tang Dunk for not the cost of a Lexus, if I can get a, you know, next year hopefully get a Foamposite Galaxy, if I can get that without having to trade a car for like that guy did back in 2012, these are really cool ways to build collections, so that way, like you said, Nick, in like 5, 10, 20 years, you can look back and say, hey, I was able to actually get it. It's not this tall tale I'm telling my kids about my shoes. It's like, oh, they had a Wu-Tang Dunk. There was 36 pairs. You'd never be able to see it. Now they're putting it back into the ethos where I can tell a story and have a physical thing to show, because guess what? The one from 2000, 2001, whenever it was, it is going to crumble and fall apart by now or by then. But now I have this re-up to where I have a fresh take on a story. And I can appreciate that, even though I am sorry for people who spent gratuitous amounts of money. I mean, that was an adult decision you made. Now we can pay $200.
But if you're really collecting, like if you're really collecting to that level and you're spending thousands of dollars, having retros of a product that you have an original of is not taken away from the value of your original pair.
Get
right?
more of them, right? Like,
yeah. And I think the other thing, you know, it's important for people to remember that the reason that sneaker culture exists is because things went on deep discounts. The Jordan 1 sold for like $20. I bought True Blue 3s on sale in 2001, 2 weeks after they came out, because they had too many, and there was a 10% off at the Foot Locker Finish Line or whatever. Like, that's not a normal thing that happens nowadays, because everything just gets pushed into the resale market. But like, the existence of sneaker culture needed to have massive amounts of access to all these products for people to understand it. And I think it's beautiful right now. You're seeing like Asics and Adidas, you know, have come up a ton this year in you know, just sales volume. Like, we know people are paying more attention to New Balance than they ever have. Like, Puma has moved up. Like, everybody's moved up, and yes, Nike's moved a little bit down, but like, it's an adjustment, like I think those types of things also push it to do better, to make the storytelling better, to make the product better, and ultimately are good in the long run, even though it might feel a little rough in certain areas for some people.
Well, on that diversified sense, us being very different people and storytelling, like New Balance is crushing it. I mean, everybody's crushing it, but I have the Amine, New Balance, Benson High Schools, which it doesn't take very much, really. Just like where the guy go to high school, do it in those colors, have him be active in the marketing, have him actually care, and then release a good-looking shoe. Like you would think it's just like paint by numbers at this point.
It's like perfect color combination, and like his rollout was so low key, but so him. I was like, this is it.
It's a great shoe.
Yeah,
it's just like little twists, like the shinies on it, like the reflective. You can see us looking back at each other, but just New Balance typically doesn't do that, and just cool. I mean, just do stuff differently. It has this little name on the bottom. It's just like,
but
that goes good.
It goes into Saucony as well. So as you pull that one out, I have these next to me as well. So like J Tips with the Prograde Omni 9, with the Matrix, really leaning into his story. This one's the to-do list. He wants to have something comfortable to go around, handle his to-do list. While you had the Matrix was the no shoes in the house, leaning into his hat design, had used those very vibrant colors. His whole activation at Complex Con with the actual house, like he had people actually lining up for an event to get this shoe. Got people, in like physical environments to communicate with each other and talk about the shoe. It wasn't just online drop and let's go away and go to our normal day. It was a whole like lead up. He has multiple events. That's cool to see that. So like you said, Robbie, someone actually believing in their product, someone actually taking the time to make it great. What New Balance did with Amine, what Saucony's doing with J Tips and other people like Mint in New York. I guess upcoming West Side Gun, Trinidad James, and Homework. Everyone has really just like, I want this to be this way, and they're actively involved, which makes us like it more because they believe in it.
Tangent. Is there a rapper named Homework? Am I out
no,
on
that's
the loop?
That's his brand. So that's Trinidad's brand, Homework. So it's all about basically constantly learning.
Ah, perfect.
And
do your homework.
Yeah, do your homework. That's literally, I think, one of the catchphrases.
If you want to clip this, make it a breakout Homework brand, you're welcome. And this over 40 moment is brought to you by Rohit Malhotra and the fine friends at Sneaker History.
I mean, like, Mike, I think you have one or two of them too. But I got the Obey Reebok stuff, which back when we were younger, I literally thought to like the Fairleigh Shepherd shirts I had, and it's like how I thought I was so cool in the Obey stuff. Like it doesn't have to be that deep. These are just some brown Obey Reeboks.
I had the brown
hoodie
really
that would
have been perfect with that in high school, man. Like I had the zip up hoodie that would have been like the fit back in the day.
But then like the Road Plus 6, like these are bangers. These are perfect. A stormtrooper hates to see him coming. But again, just all you have to do is obey on the heel, and it's like young kids really don't care. But making stuff, when you got into something like Nick was saying, it doesn't matter if I got into this in 2006 or if someone's just trying to be ironic and they got into it in 2024. Like a good-looking product sometimes is as simple as just a good-looking product. Yeah. And a world full of bad products. I mean, like, right? I mean, not to be mean, but like, there's a trillion LeBron 22s that don't need to be in the wild. And it's like, why don't you light money on fire? And Reebok also lights money on fire too. But Adidas does also. Like, it's just what I would like to see in 2025 on like the good list going down the road is just maybe more thoughtful releases. It's not going to happen. But like, they didn't have to do an Obey collab. Like, no one asked for it. But people like me who love both brands, like, happy as hell to have it. And they look good.
There's a flashback moment, like you said, it's like younger you would have been like, oh, I gotta buy these. Like I remember going into, what was it, in Beaumont, Buckle sold Obey. So I remember dragging my parents, they're like, look, I know this shirt is $35, but I won't buy something else. So it's like,
right.
It really brings you back to that moment. So I thought that was cool when I opened that box. I didn't expect those to show up, honestly.
That's what's so crazy about just like, right, bro, I'll let you go, but like being younger and being like, oh, can I have a $35 t-shirt, please? And now it's like, Bandit asks like $60 for like a black blank single stitch. Like it's
Yeah, and I was going to say this, Rob. You bring up a really good point around what we would hope to see in the nice list of 2025. One of the things that I'm going to be most fascinated about is the AE2 rollout, because I think you can capture lightning in a bottle the way that they did with the AE1, and I'm very curious to see how they follow that up, because that's probably as effective of a storytelling marketing campaign and a product design that I can think of. And the natural inclination is there is going to be some sort of drop off. But you know what? We are in the season of hope. We are in the season of good tidings. I hope Adidas AE2 knock it out of the park. But it's definitely something that I'm hoping that when we have this retrospective on retros and other new releases, so to speak, in 2025, like we can say that, yeah, 2025 was the year that the era of goodwill continued, as opposed to 2024 being an aberration.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's so hard to follow up a successful, first signature or first model release, right? Like, if you think back to all of them, I think the only time that comes to mind that it worked was like the KB8 2 with Adidas on the Kobe line. Like even the Kobe 2 with Nike was a little like lacking in terms of design. A lot of people weren't into it, and but I think like that's like also kind of, that can apply to like the collaborative side too, right? Like there's a lot of opportunity for people to, like Mike bringing up J Tips. I think he's one of the few people that's like delivered consistently a wow factor to things. And, it's tough, right? Like not everybody has, cool life experience to share or to connect with people and knows how to tell that story. But I don't know, hopefully like, the retrospective of retros, as Rohit said, we're looking back and, I agree with Robbie too. Like just to reiterate, I think like having, if we had better storytelling and we had more poignant connection between the product and the people and the consumers, then you would sell more of the product and you wouldn't have to produce more quantities. So, but also that's not the way big corporations work. And,
Yeah.
Well, I got a question for you guys. So, is one I was been thinking about earlier with the, lack of better words, oversaturation of collaborations. They're not as special anymore. It seems like every time you look, everything's a collaboration. Do you think that we are kind of reversing our way of thinking? Like, oh, collaboration a dime a dozen now, but OG color, something that was thought about by the brand, there's no other personal brand attached to it, is more, I guess, has a higher cachet in a sense of sneaker collecting as opposed to the collaboration now? Because, every time I look up, there's something collaborated on, but I'm excited about foams coming back with no collaboration attached as opposed to the next Union or the next, fill in the blank. It's just
homework.
Yeah. It's like, I appreciate what they do, but it is not. I'm not as excited because I expect it now. Collaborations used to not be expected. Like when the first Unions came out, they introduced them at the Rose Bowl flea market, and people had no idea what it was. Now I know a year or some change ahead of time. Oh, okay, there's going to be a Chicago Shadow. That's cool. Doesn't capture the same magic, but guess what? That copper foam, I'm still looking at it. I might give you $230 because I'm more interested in that because I don't see that every day. I don't see foams as much as I see a collaboration with somebody now.
I think those trends ebb and flow, but here's my argument for collabs they're never going away, and I think that's a great thing because yes, there's collabs like if I'm going to pick on somebody, who can I pick? The Hot Cheetos Pumas, like it didn't need to happen. It's like whatever, but like if you're into Hot Cheetos and you're a kid, like that shoe's cool as hell, if I'm 16, 15 and that comes out, I'm like, I'm all in on it, but the Kids of Immigrants Sunder. Oh,
those are beautiful.
That shoe is why collaborations have to happen because it allows the brands to experiment without like totally going off the rails. And like imagine that shoe. Imagine if they redid the Sunder in that way. If Nike did it on their own and released it, people would be like, why'd you ruin the Sunder?
They're furious about it. Yeah, you're right.
And then Kids of Immigrants, right. Like the colorways are great. The story is great. Like the design ends up being way cooler to everyone. And I think that is like, you have to have somebody on the creative on the collaborative side for that to happen. But you also have to, as a brand, in order to experiment that far out, you have to have somebody else to like almost be your safety net, right? It's like, what I forget the.
I mean, RM is a perfect example of that.
The RM or some of the ambush releases that like flopped, and even some of the Off-White Virgil stuff, towards the end, some of those shoes were just like, crazy shoes that people, Nike would have never tried it on their own and been able to sell it. But if you have people willing to see like, oh, he's just being experimental, like I'm going to try it too kind of thing. I think that's where we're just always going to see it. It's just going to be refined. And the opportunity is really getting more localized and more specific on the storytelling, right? Because there's so much opportunity for that stuff.
Well, then let's say that maybe... Oh, go ahead.
This is the only relevant time ever, the Puma Cheeto stuff. They did a J Balvin Cheeto stuff, and I almost bought that sweatshirt. Like last week, they did a J Balvin
I didn't
Hot
see that.
Cheetos collab.
It was news to me.
Like $180 for the hoodie, and I couldn't do it.
Did it come with a lifetime of free Cheetos for that much money?
It was too, but I like J Balvin a lot. I like Cheetos.
Hey!
Cheetos.
Look at that! Look at that marketing.
Puma stuff, no. That was the only time that ever made relevant sense to talk about that, so I had to bring it up.
The reason I think we're still talking about the Cheetos now, if they wouldn't have done it in a Scoot, because I'm not a Blazers fan. I don't hate the Blazers by any means, but I don't hear Scoot's name enough to make that relevant. So why not put that on? I mean, God knows there's already a million colorways, but now why not put that on the Mellow? I mean, you force the story anyway. You know what I'm saying? Like, why not put it on Mellow, which is a higher selling shoe than the. He
got Scooby Doo, which looked awful.
No, I mean, not only that,
it's like an actual Mr. Machine.
And you guys let me know from a Puma perspective, but I almost feel like Melo's a crutch for them. Like, it's anytime they get any sort of out the world, obnoxious storytelling, like, let's Melo it, because that's part of his brand. He can make anything pops. And if you haven't heard Scoot's name enough, I advise you go to a Blazer game. You're going to hear it from the yay and the nays, if you will. And luckily, Robbie and I were able to see a buzzer beater last night. But it is one of those things where, going back to the Kids of Immigrant thing, like that brilliant storytelling, and specifically that video that not only made me cry, it made my mama cry. It made me ask my mama to record a voicemail for me so that when she's no longer with me, I can always lean on that. That's essence. That's spirit. And all due respect to Nike, they're some of the most brilliant storytellers in the world. There's no way they could have come up with that unless there was a actual kid of an immigrant or an immigrant on the board. And sometimes when you reach a certain level of corporate hierarchy, you can't get to let your true self shine in a way. And so that's why I think these collabs are necessary. And then going back to your point, Mike, I think it's cyclical. Right now, we're oversaturated with collabs and things like an ice blue or the royal blue foam or one of my sneakers of the year, because there's not enough story that's been told in a modern time, because that story was so well told that it's always going to make me pick that shoe up. 5 years down the line, maybe it's going to go the opposite, where we're going to get bombarded with OGs and like, give us a new story. So we do also have to acknowledge as a editorial board that these things are going to go cyclical. It's just how well do we maintain our identity along with that rotational aspect of it.
Definitely. No, I agree with that. I think more of my thing is vetting the collaborations better. I think that's probably how I should have said it. I feel like we get so many that aren't good, for lack of better words. Like, we just, as the people who are in charge of those, just take a little bit more time. Don't just like, hey, we need to throw it out because it's a name attached, but let's sit down and refine it. It's like, Kids of Immigrants is the perfect example of a perfect collaboration. Like, if I can find a shoe and not destroy my bank account, I would love to buy one, because that when I saw that shoe, then again saw the story, I'm not anything close to immigrant, but just the story still was amazing. The design's amazing, and everything about it made me just want to be a part of it. And I don't feel that way about, I mean, I keep picking on it, I'm sorry, Scoot, but I don't feel that way about Hot Cheetos. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, I know it's very different into the spectrum when I'm using like these examples, but you can see where I'm coming from there.
Yeah, I think the the one thing I think about with the foams, like I would put the foams somewhere on this list too, because it's nice to see them back. The price is too much for me.
Oh, it's gross.
But like a lot of what these lists end up being is like a revisitation of a shoe that was hot 5 or 10 years ago, right? It's usually a 5 to 6 year cycle on retro stuff. And another shoe that we've talked about a ton. I don't know if it deserves to be on like this year's list because it's been around for much longer, but like the Vomero, right? Like that shoe has just been like, there's been so many dope colorways. And I mean, it's one of the few shoes that I've had people texting me asking about, even though they're not into sneakers, and yet like that shoe needed to go away. You know, you needed to have that, you know, I don't know, whatever it's been, like 10,
The
12
Disney
years.
Vault. It has
the
to go back into the
hiatus.
vault.
It
Exactly.
really is that, you know, like take it away from us for a while and then we miss it and we want it back and kind of learn to appreciate it a second time around.
So here's some more nice shoes. I think a lot of the KD4 retros, like Nick was just saying, take them out the vault, put them back in the vault. Christmas ones were cool. I mean, they are cool, right? I'm excited to see that show. All the Nerfs, you know, the Galaxies.
Yeah.
Didn't buy any of them because they hurt my feet, but like they're nice to see. And then both the Hardened 8 and 9. I think the 9 is even cooler than the 8, but like that, you're the blue snake looking Hardened 9 I've been seeing the last like 48 hours.
Yeah. Well,
Very nice list.
I think the Hard 9 may be nicer. Well, no, it is nicer than the Fear of God basketball too, which I think that's still a cool looking shoe. But the Hard 9, like the last 3 models with him, they've really, you know, circled the wagons around it to make sure it was going to do something, like cause a conversation. And whoever, I can not remember who's working on that when I saw his name, and please forgive me because it just escapes me at the moment as I'm talking. But you did a great job on that because you can. That's one of those shoes. Just like the
Jalal.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Jalal. I saw that and I just spaced. But it's a shoe you can see from TV on a court, just like the AE1. If I can recognize it without having to go search something, that's where you're winning. And I think that's really cool that Adidas is doing that. And I won't go too far on that tangent, but I think that's why they're winning in basketball because I can recognize their two premier athletes. Just
probably
watching
could
the game
throw
on
in
TNT.
Dame in there third too, right?
Yeah, you can throw in Dame.
Dame 9 looks amazing from a distance. I think like that's like, you know, that's going back to like Nike, right? Like in retro product, that's the up-tempo approach, man. Like that's why so much of what we know and love is because they were so good at that in the 80s and 90s and like really stamping that into their like design, you know, language basically.
Yeah.
And then conversely, I think the air tempo or the up tempo approach is also kind of frustrating in a sense because they took that model and it was a special model. They took it out of the vault, put it back in the vault, and now they've taken it back out and colorified it so many different ways, or you lose that appeal of it because you're like, they've made a panda colorway. I'm sure they're going to make a South Beach colorway. They're going to make whatever your favorite Nike colorway is of that shoe. And I get it. Corporations have to make money. If there's one overarching theme you always get out of a sneaker history episode, it's that specific sentence. But then at the same time, less is more. We all believe that. We all agree that that's the best way for storytelling.
Yep. I was waiting for a Galaxy one. They haven't done that yet, surprisingly.
Yeah. So one other shoe that would be on my nice list. I wasn't like a huge fan of the Air Max 186.
Oh, big bubble.
Like becoming a thing. Like I think it's cool. I would love to have a pair to compare. But I do have to give like a huge amount of credit because Nike finally put like a good shoe out as a Jackie Robinson shoe. Like, I mean, they've done various Jackie Robinson shoes throughout the years. Adidas has done a ton of Jackie, you know, every brand that can say they're connected has basically. But doing the Air Max 186, the colorway was great. You know, like it felt nostalgic, even though it was a new colorway. And I think like that aspect, and obviously as a huge baseball fan and just a huge, you know, like
civil rights fan.
Yeah. Like, I mean, if you have not heard that man's story, like even if you have, you need to go listen to it again because he was an incredible human being before he was anything else. And I think that like resonated through that shoe release more and made a little bit more of a splash. It was also, I think, produced in a little bit more. I mean, it's still limited, but like a little bit more numbers. I seem to see it a little bit more frequently compared to, you know, like the Griffey that came out was super, you know, the Dunk was super limited. The Griffey was super limited, but it's kind of cool to have like a, what I would say is like a you know, the average consumer model get that kind of treatment. And they haven't done that a lot with that. And it's cool to see that. So props to them.
Definitely.
Well, what's one nice list shoe as we wrap up here from each person? What's your nicest of nice?
I mean, mine's going to be, we talk about foams, we're going to talk about the Tekken foams. So that way, I mean, I love Tekken. That's one of my favorite video games. The first game I had, Tekken 2 is the first game I had on PlayStation 1. And that is, them kind of bringing it back and me introducing Tekken to Davian on the PS5 is just, I think that's cool. I love it. I mean,
Who's his main?
his main right now, he's still
Mitsu.
it's Jin right now, but he gets so mad because I'll end up using Law and just wrecking shop on him.
By the way, $1 billion soccer idea, Adidas. Give me some Eddie Gordo sambas. You're welcome.
Yo, I buy him. Do a whole pack. Give me some cleats in it as well. But yeah, that's my nice list. I think one of my favorites that come out the year.
All right, Ro, it's one of yours.
Mine off the beaten path. I'm probably the resident Wemby stan out of the four of us, so I really like the Air GT Cut 2, the Wemby Alien Player Edition. It's storytelling. It's storytelling in the sense that we got to come up with a better nickname than the Alien for him, because it's an easy win, and sometimes we don't need easy wins if you can kind of gauge that, listener, but sometimes just hit me with a tasteful glow in the dark, a tasteful black and green colorway, and just tell me it's going to be okay, and it's going to be okay. I would say that, just because of the fact that every other shoe that we've talked about on this level of this episode, the KOI Asunder, Jordan 4 RM, Tekken 8, whatever the case may be, we've all waxed poetic about it. So for me, I'm grasping at straws, but that's the best way of storytelling, because this could have been a completely different episode if we had just agreed on like two specific pairs or two models, and then we're like, okay, what else do we talk about for the next 35 minutes?
Yeah.
True. Well, I'll go. So I'm pretty sure the Monster 1 was my number one shoe of 2023. So I'm boring. The Monster 2, I've gone through like 3 pairs of them this year. Billion colors, comfortable, wide, pause. It's just nice to have, a shoe that kind of goes with everything. And as I walk around more different cities across the country, like, everybody's wearing them. They're comfortable. I have all black. I have silver, white. Just pick your poison.
I mean, for me, I think the one shoe, like, I haven't really bought anything, obviously, but like the one shoe that I would like to get my feet in, rather, just like the Kayano 14, man. It's like a good, like, 2000s era, like, bring back for ASICs. I've had a bunch of them. I've had a bunch of the Kayanos throughout the years. I even have like a 20th anniversary pack that they did that like kind of flew under the radar in like whatever 2014 or whatever that was. But like just the simple colorways that are out there of that shoe, there's been plenty of cool like collabs and stuff, but like that simple like white and silver, white and black, like I don't know. I find myself wearing the same pairs at the door all the time lately, and like
happens to the best of us.
Yeah, it's like that shoe is the one where I'm like, man, I just wish that was sitting by the door. So
have it teleport.
Yeah.
And also put your hands in it. You don't need to put your feet in it. Put your hands in it.
So my final question for you guys: what is the like on the other side of that? What like retro product is it like that you're thinking about the most? I continue to kind of come back to like, do I really want these Fruity Pebbles LeBron 4s? Because
You're reading my
would have
mind
never
right now,
bought
man.
them before, but
they're just so cheap right now. Though I keep looking at the same thing. And that
I know. Robbie's like, I would never wear that shoe.
I
should
would wear
never
them
wear that
proudly.
shoe. But like, I might wear them a few times, and then I'd complain about them hurting my feet. But then I could put them on the wall next to me, And
I've always dreamt of playing basketball in the KD4 Nerf. And they're
That's
cheap
one,
too.
yeah.
Your
Just
pinky
that
toe's
shoe
gonna
is not
die.
comfortable. Yeah, I just can't do it. But that's the retro where I'm like, oh, I look at it like every other week. I'm like, it's cheap, but I'm not going to wear it. But I always want to have it.
I have to say, we've all gotten smarter because in earlier years we've been like, cheap, we're gonna buy it. Now we're like, it's cheap, but will I actually do anything with this thing?
Exactly.
My name is Rohit. I have a problem. I pay at retail for things like the Fruity Pebbles, and it's a character flaw. It's something I wish to work upon in my 2025. And in the spirit of listening, not judging, I hope you guys can hold me accountable. So,
I mean, Rohit, you just took on my role in the podcast. Because remember, back when we started doing this, or a couple years into it even, I remember Robbie just was like, why are you paying full retail for Fear of God Skylons, Talarias, like everything. I was just like, I'm excited to get
just
this.
Crushing it.
Like,
just get it.
Just wait, man. You'll be able to get 2 of them for that price. And I'm like,
it's psychological because I took a self-imposed, i.e. not working at Nike break of being a sneakerhead, because that 50% discount, when it hits. And then after a while, you're like, no, I've got to make up for lost time. I'm back in the game. They're the young cats
like,
on the camp.
Give me all these.
Yeah. I can't lose to this 25-year-old who already has more swag than me. So
everyone's like pushing them out the line of the when they do those drops.
Yeah.
Like, move, get out of here.
Tell me, what's your favorite fruity pebble flake? Oh, you took too long. This is mine.
Favorite flake.
Yeah. All right, y'all. Well, thanks for rocking with us for another year. It's been awesome to connect with everybody. We've got some new people in the Discord. We got some new people on the Instagram account too. So it's been super dope. I'm gonna put this video up on the YouTube channel as well, and make sure you like, subscribe, all those things. Leave us reviews. Connect with everybody in the Discord. Links to all the social will be below. We appreciate y'all. Have a happy holidays. Happy holidays.
Ribbit.
We'll see you in the new year with some new content, some new ideas, and some good old-fashioned fun. Peace out.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Happy Toyotathon.
Hey everyone, this is Nick again. Before you take off, do us a solid and head over to Apple Podcasts to leave us a review. Give us a rating on Spotify and Amazon Music, and make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel because we have even more video content coming soon. Speaking of new content, we have an amazing community of sneaker enthusiasts that hang out in our Sneaker History Discord on a daily basis. While sneakers is a connection point that brought us all together, we've all discovered countless shared passions that we have in common with each other. We recently launched a couple of new podcasts directly from our community. One of them is a Formula One podcast. If you're an F1 fan like me, the Exhaust Notes podcast is your weekly fix of Formula One fun. It's hosted by myself, Rohit Malhotra, and Todd Yates. New episodes drop every Tuesday. I've been wearing fitted hats for years and collecting my favorite teams since I was a little leaguer. It has been awesome to see so many new fans getting into fitteds in recent years. Crown and Stitch is our new talk show about fitted hats with Dexter, Keith, and myself, where we talk about fitted hats, snapbacks, throw in some obscure hats because we all kind of like some funky stuff once in a while, don't we? Copping, collecting, and so much more. New episodes drop every Wednesday. Hit the links in the show notes for this episode to give our new shows a listen, and be on the lookout for more new podcasts dropping soon. Last but not least, tell someone you like their kicks today. You never know how far a simple compliment can take you, and we all know how good it feels to have someone show their appreciation. Thank you all for the support, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Peace.